The Buffalo Bills laid it on the Cowboys today. Just an absolute ass kicking from start to finish. And we had so many discussions this offseason about what the Bills were trying to do and this far off version of who they wanted to be compared to what they were at their best in 2020 and 2021, when they were the spread out, throw it around team, but they didn't have that other pitch when they needed to assert themselves physically. And you saw the way that they were trying to build the roster. I think some of it was a little bit misguided. The Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox thing, it's like that was a better idea that it wasn't practiced in a lot of ways. But even going back into last year when they were trying to kind of tap into a different version of themselves in the run game, and then they go get those two guards in the offseason. They sign Connor, I don't even know his last name. I think it's Connor McDermott. The Connors in the AFC will always ruin me. I can't even tell you which one it was. McGovern, whatever it is. The Connor at left guard and Osiris Torrance at right guard. And we kept coming back to, can this team tap into this physical, run-heavy football team when they need it most? Even if you were optimistic about that outcome, I don't think you ever could have imagined the sort of Buffalo Bills team that you saw on Sunday. But after seeing it, man, do I feel pretty good about their ability to take it to anybody if they manage to get into this thing, which it really seems like they might.
This was the pivot. This was it right here. In a game that Josh Allen went 7 of 15 for 94 yards. They felt totally in control the entire game on offense and defense too. We'll get to that in a sec. But when Josh Allen was in the game, because they got into garbage time, unbelievable. Also Cowboys, this is just like every time we do game of the week, I swear, it's just like they turn into a blowout. Either they win or they lose. It's like, just have a competitive game. The first Cowboys-Eagles game, I guess. But when Josh Allen was in the game, the Bills ran the ball successfully on 25 or 38 design run plays, 20 rushing first downs. It's just their average distance to go on third down was 3.6 yards today. And this is just the culmination of like just what you said. It was the ability to run different runs, the tackle pull play, which has been their favorite. And now they're adding layers to it and levels to it. Like they're adding read elements, different formations out of it. But then the duo runs, they can get to several different things, but also the ability to pivot on personnel. That's the other thing we've talked about, that at the end of last year, we saw what Dorsey was trying to do, and Brady's kind of kept it going, which I think is great for this offense, using Reggie Gilliam, who's a great Swiss Army knife for this team. They had Ty Johnson in a bunch on 21 pony personnel, which was
so interesting, them doing that. So if those of you guys not watching the game very closely, Ty Johnson had his share of rushing attempts in this game, but there were a lot of moments where he's just lining up as almost an H-back next to the formation, and they're using him as a tight end blocking. And I don't know what the thought process was behind that or what lever they were trying to pull, but it happened a couple different times, and they were successful when they did it.
My guess is it was because the Cowboys were we know they do this a lot, but nothing but man coverage. So my guess was that messing with the man, okay, who's on Cook, who's on, who are they determining that's my guess. But they had 4 plays out of pony, so 2 tailbacks, 2 first downs, averaged nearly 10 yards per play out of those looks. But they ran 11, which is their main fastball, but 12, 21 pony, 22 jumbo. So, and different tight ends, it was this is it. This is what we wanted to see so much. And they finally did it. They had some great run plays. Like I said, they had some great design plays. The James Cook touchdown, the other one that he dropped was a great design. So this is it. And then you sprinkle in Josh Allen chaos. What do we say? Baby, you got stew going. That's what the Bills had going today. And the defense that played great too.
Allen's quote after the game was awesome. He said he felt like the kid in the group project that didn't do anything and still got an A based on the game that he had today. And I'm sure that is what he felt like. And that's a huge departure from what he normally has to do for this team.
Absolutely.
The fact that he can step back and they can have a game like this is remarkable. And I loved watching a team not get bored with this. That was my favorite part of watching the Bills offense today, is that if the game script goes your way, this Cowboys team can be taken advantage of on the ground. They're 31st in rushing success rate coming into this game, but often they're getting ahead because the way that offense is playing, that defense can lean into that chaos that they can create, and teams can never put themselves in a position to bludgeon them in the way that they can be bludgeoned. But that's exactly what the Bills did today. They had a 65% rushing success rate with 40 runs. There's only been 5 of those games all season this year in the NFL. The Eagles had 2. The Niners over the Cowboys was another. So those are 3 of the 5. And the Bills being able to play that sort of game is hugely encouraging. So them being able to tap into all these different versions of themselves and, like you said, different ways of running the ball. I thought they'd spread it out to run against the light bodies that Dallas has. They did a little bit of everything. It didn't matter who was out there. It didn't matter how the Cowboys matched it.
It was
They
everything.
ran it down their throats for the entire game.
It was great seeing, like you said, they didn't get bored with it. That it was not. It was they were running the same concept over and over. But again, you knew that week they knew they liked it, because so they're like, rather than just going, hey, we're going to run one play out of one formation, it's like, let's find 6 different ways to run this. And also it was funny, they went 22 jumbo personnel. So what that is a fullback, Reggie Gilliam, 2 tight ends, with one of those guys being an offensive lineman. The Cowboys were matching with nickel with 5 DBs. So they went, okay, we'll get an I formation and run it down your throat, or we'll go pin pull and pull an offensive lineman on a DB, like 2 offensive linemen on DBs. It was everything you want to see. Like, I mean, again, but the defense, how they were able to not only just take control of the first game. Oh, also last thing, Jonathan Hankins being out for the Cowboys. Oh, that is just like that. I totally should.
He's missed the last couple games.
Yes,
that when we were talking about the Eagles game and how successful the Eagles were running the ball, and one of those games with a 65% rushing success rate this year was the Eagles last week. They just didn't run the ball at all. So this was always possible if the Bills were to stick to it, and they did. So that was the formula on offense. I'm curious what you saw from the Bills defense that you liked in this game, because this was always possible against this Cowboys defense based on the way that they're constructed and based on the way that they had played against the run this year. This is not what we expected from the Cowboys offense based on the way that they had played over the last 6 weeks and based on some of the struggles we'd seen from the Bills. So what about this do you think allowed the Bills to get on top of them on that side of the ball?
I felt like a lot of cover 2, a lot of like just very soft. They spot dropped as well. So true zone coverages. They mixed up looks, and that's what I kind of figured they would do against Dak. McDermott's been in his bag. He's like, since their bye week and since the injuries, he's been really trying to just funky it up. The safeties played really well. Losing Zach Martin was huge. That was a big kind of sliding door moment in this game, because then that became, they couldn't drop back. They couldn't do anything deep. There's just several moments where they took advantage of that. A lot of times they even baited Dak, who I think reads the game as well as any quarterback. The Cowboys like to do a lot on second and long. They like to run draws. Running back draws. They're really good at it. But how they get to that is they package it with a pass play and a run play. So if it's too high, okay, we're going to run a draw. If it's single high, okay, we're going to throw the ball. They held the look so well, and the linebackers held their look, and the safeties held their rotation so well that they baited Dak into running the draw into a loaded box. So it's if you're getting Dak,
safeties were flying down the entire game. The way the
job.
Safeties played the run and just the way their DBs tackled in space in this game, the combination of that made a huge difference. And Rapp stepping in for Micah Hyde and just being able to play the way that he did today was monstrous.
All the guys were aware. Like Dotson had the moment, the 3rd and 1 where Dak got sacked on. It was just a great moment of like just lack of awareness versus awareness. Dowdle for the Cowboys stayed in protection because he just saw color flash in front of his eyes instead of getting out. And then, there's Dotson. He sees that, adds on, and creates a pressure, and it ends up being a huge sack that kind of was like cemented the game. So yeah, I just think that the attention to detail this Bills defense has always shown under McDermott. It's like it's really getting highlighted now because they've had to do some makeshift pieces, and then the stars are playing like stars, which is what you want to see out of a defense like this.
Them winning up front on both sides of the ball in this game is not something that I expected. Even with Zach Martin out, how handily they won that game up front on defense. I'm talking about Buffalo.
Yep.
That says a lot about what sort of unit that can be in the right moments and potentially what they can be for the rest of the season. Our biggest question about this game coming in was, who's going to keep this going? Both of these teams answered a question about themselves in Week 14. Dallas knocked off the first good team that they have all season, and the Bills showed us that it doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter how bad their schedule is down the stretch. They're so good that they can keep stringing together some wins and maybe sneak into this thing. The Bills kept that going. Dallas fell back. So I think our optimism about where Buffalo is and what they can do was well-founded and continues to roll. How do you feel about the Cowboys after this game? Is this as worrying as it looks, in your opinion?
I think so, because who you're going to play in the playoffs? Teams that can run the ball. So if they can control the clock, doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter about the offense. Like, even holding off that discussion, just talk about the defense. This is the classic formula that defeats teams. If you just they're going to control the clock. when the MVP, one of the leading best players in the league, Jesus, that was a terrible sentence, but one of the best players in the league, like Josh Allen, is not having like his best day throwing the ball, and they're still controlling the game. It's like, how are you going to do against 49ers, the Eagles? I mean, just look at all the teams in the NFC that could run the ball. The Lions. Imagine the Cowboys playing the Lions.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and that could be a possibility. Like, especially if they, whoever they play in the NFC South, because that's kind of how it's looking this right now. But it's just that does make me worried, and they're very predictable. I felt today. I kept going back on like, are they hiding something, or they were man coverage, which might have helped them against the pass, but it didn't help them against the run. And Maisie Smith was getting blown off the ball. Yeah, so it did have me a little worried. If they looked more flawed, I still think they're a good team, obviously, but they looked way more flawed than they have.
Yeah, and the offense looked static too today. Just less motion than we've seen from them over the past, since the bye, all that stuff that we were excited about. Yeah. It just felt so lifeless on that side of the ball compared to what they've looked like when they've been rolling. Everything felt hard. Yeah. And that may be predictable against the 2020 Bills defense. That was just an elite unit week in,
the Anaconda unit. Yeah,
exactly. Team, and that's actually a really good way to put it, because we talk about that with the Niners, right? And that Niners team has always been able to suffocate this Dallas offense. And the fact that the Bills, this version of the Bills, was able to do that against them today, I don't know, man. That is dicey. I thought this game would be a shootout. I thought the Bills would be able to move the ball on them consistently, but I thought that Dallas would match them haymaker for haymaker on the offensive side of the ball, and their inability to do that against this Bills team that has not been the sort of team that we're used to on that side, that's genuinely concerning, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can beat one Eagles team. It doesn't matter if you're putting up the best offensive numbers in the league over a month and a half stretch. We talked about this. It only matters if you can do this against good teams. It's only going to matter if you can do this against the Niners in the playoffs. And this was a very good barometer, in my opinion, of what a game against that Niners team might potentially look like, and they were not up for it.
And it might not seem fair, but it's like, this is the tier. When you're at this tier, it's tight. You can't have blemishes. They're going to get poked at. They can be exposed. Just them playing on the road, like they're pretty much automatically going to, looks like it. Look at the Eagles versus their schedule.
And those splits are concerning, man.
Those are potentially, that's a real thing.
That's something to talk about and think about as we get a little bit further into this. And I want to step back and maybe take a look at why that might be the case. What is the difference between this Dallas offense at home and on the road? Because those splits are real right now.
Yeah, I think some of the movement stuff, communication, and motion stuff just becomes so much harder on the road. So I think the stuff that we like. And the last thing too is that, like, when they have to throw a quick game, the fact that anytime they throw a quick game against a good defense like the Bills played today, it's like, and they just teed off on everything. It's like when that gets taken away from them, that kind of like just that little way that they can nickel and dime, when that gets taken away, even if we like them pushing the ball, just feels so uneven, which is concerning too.
The Bills can win the division. This is very real. If they win out, they win the division because they get the Dolphins in week 18. But even if they don't, let's say the Bills are a wild card and they've got to play a couple road games in the AFC. You think the Bills can win the Super Bowl?
Yeah. AFC's wide open. How this defense played, it was never the offense. This was a great exclamation point for how the offenses looked this year. But how this defense has reconfigured itself, yes. Because now they have answered some questions that I had, and they're doing it against good teams too.
Butler tells me they need one more Dolphins loss along the way, whatever it is. They're probably going to be a wild card team if you're playing the odds right now. They're probably going to have to play on the road.
Beat the Cowboys without Josh Allen doing anything. Now imagine Josh Allen doing
stuff. That makes me feel pretty good.
I should say not doing anything, not full on carrying the team.
Yes, it was not the Josh go do something offense that we're so used to. Okay, and this Bills team, what a wild ride this has been. Because I'm sitting there in July or August, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, am I crazy? Or does this have a chance to be maybe the best version of this team that we've seen in a while? And then they lose all these close games, and we get the McDermott expose, and we're getting all these just awful stories. He's having to come out and address them. Feels like they're falling apart. They lose that game to the Eagles, and I'm like, man, maybe they just weren't that team. Maybe this their window and their chance to really do this came and went, and it's time to kind of not blow it up, obviously, but really take a long look in the mirror about what the next phase of the Josh Allen Bills is going to look like. That's where I was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I don't think that's unfair. And now to watch them right now and to look at every other team in the AFC and come away thinking, they could do this, man. It's kind of where I thought I would be while thinking about this team back during training camp, but it has been one hell of a winding road to arrive at this moment.
I have nothing to add. I just say, yeah, because they're my preseason Super Bowl pick. I said at one point, I was like, I don't look at them as a contender anymore. And then it's just they fired the offensive coordinator. I'm just like, oh my God, like what is going
I
on?
forgot about that. It's part of this winding road.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, no, I feel as good as about the Bills as I do any team in the NFL right now, just because of what they just have shown on offense and now what this defense is doing. It's what a crazy year. It's just
This is
normal.
the NFL, man.
Just be normal.
You can live in a different world from one week to the next, and I think no team embodies that better this season than the Buffalo Bills. And this was their announcement that they have rejoined the conversation in a way that nobody could have predicted a month ago. But here we are.